Hello, how are we doing tonight? Very pleasantly. It is raining. I'm back. Hooray. Came on to start a little conversation with you guys regarding meditation. So, my history with meditation is my first inclination is to say that it's not that elaborate, but maybe I'm wrong. I've definitely had reason to think that it's maybe a little bit more elaborate than some other people. Most people, when they think about meditation, the ideas of clearing your head, becoming zen, so to speak, and emptying your thoughts, that's the idea. Is most people can't fathom that, can't get to that step. Trying to go from your normal functional level of thinking, which is pretty much constantly, to no thinking at all instantly. That's what a lot of people think, that's the case, is you have to do it like that way, just instantly achieve that task of emptying your mind. And the thing is that I never could do that right off the bat. So I'm sure there was a small part of me that actually was like, oh, I'm not doing this right, I'm fucking it up. But I didn't care. I was doing it. I started doing a different method, actually, to be honest. I started getting into the Kabbalah, the Golden Dawn type methods. I was reading a book by Israel Regardie called The Middle Pillar. And so the idea is, the meditations anyways presented in that book are presented as in ritual form. So you're doing a process, whether it be actually physically moving your arms around and kind of doing a little thing where you're saying the words out loud, or you're just doing it all in your head. You're doing those out loud processes and movements and saying the words all in your head. So whether you're doing one or the other, the idea is that you're putting your consciousness into a zone, and you're using these step-by-step kind of like remedial processes of saying a word or drawing a figure or touching parts of your body. Like the one is called the middle pillar. No, the one's called the Kabbalistic cross. You touch your forehead, you say a word in Hebrew. You touch your solar plexus. You say another word in Hebrew, right shoulder, power it up in a word in Hebrew, and then left shoulder, vibrate that word. It's described in the book as vibrating a word. You're vibrating that power throughout your body. So the idea, so you're saying the word, never mind harmonics and how Hebrew language is phonetically more advanced than the English language. Never mind all that stuff. You saying a word in your head, but also speaking that word, and with force, with psychological force, you're like really putting your concentration on that word, like by vibrating it or saying it a certain way. You're putting more of a connection to that word, but the idea of that word and the feeling, you're kind of ingraining it by doing the process, by going about the way. You're kind of like ingraining it into your head, and you're doing the thing. What you do is you touch your forehead. Well, first you have to dip the wand in your pool of light. That's just part of it. The idea of there being a crown there, halo, so to speak. You can connect this to the ideas of the chakras and the crown chakra being above your head through quantum physics. You could be suggesting that if you're a magnetic torus shape, you have a electromagnetic field around your body in the shape of a torus with the magnetics of your spine, that the frequencies of I can't take this call. The frequencies on each level are going to be spinning and shit like that. The idea is that at the apex in that donut, in the center of the donut, the top where your crown is, that there's a certain higher vibration there through quantum physics. But anyways, the prayer, as described by the Golden Dawn, Israel Regardie, the Kabbalah, is Hebrew mysticism, ancient mystery school stuff. You're saying in Hebrew, you're saying, "Thou art the kingdom," touching your sternum, your solar plexus. "Thou art the kingdom, the power and the glory." You're saying forever and ever. Amen. You say Ata Malkuth Vega Bura Vega Dula Leolam. Amen. I'm quite sure that's the general white boy translation, or whatever. So the idea is that you're kind of putting those words into your brain, your psyche. You're kind of saying, like, "Thou art the kingdom, the power and the glory forever and ever. I am the kingdom, and the power and the glory reside within me." You're saying thou art, bringing God down into your body. So this, I'm not going to try and get into the philosophy of it all, but the deep fundamental understanding is that, and this is throughout mystery schools, throughout ancient religions, largely ignored / hidden, lied about, or even just oblivious to in modern religion, spirituality, and philosophy, is the idea that we are the kingdom. We're the kingdom. We're the kingdom of God. God sits in us. God is in us when we're the meat bag. We're the fucking physical thing that God sits in. We're the dwelling. We're the robotic remote control robot. We're the tool. We're the fucking empty shell that is inhabited by God. And what is God? God is life. God is consciousness. God is mind. So I'm not going to get into the philosophy behind all that right now, but when you're meditating, addressing that there is this life in you, like specifically for them, that was the kingdom, the power and the glory forever and ever. It's like you're addressing that I have this power in me. I have this connection to a real pure thing in my physical being. Putting yourself on this kind of really chill mental frequency, like really kind of like, okay, I'm fucking, none of my shit matters, like just put all that shit aside. That's all just fucking numbers on the wall, shadows on the wall. It's fucking dice being rolled. Fuck that shit. It's just a game, like fuck, meditate, So that's one of the meditations, one of the rituals that I found over time really was able to put me in that meditative state, to really reach that as described by countless gurus. I learned about the conceptuality of the Zen state mostly from reading Eckhart Tolle. He's kind of the Western version of, the Buddha or whatever. He's a white dude. He used to listen to him talk. You can tell he's in a state of bliss. You can just tell by looking at him. And some people are like, look at this guy, he's fucking brain dead. Like, some people don't get it. Like, they don't get that that's what you want. You want to be in that state. like, because it's like not, it's like they're, you know, they're hopped up on the energy, hopped up on the coffees and shit, and all like, oh, I gotta be thinking, I gotta be achieving stuff, I gotta be fucking getting it, you know, get mine, all that satanic thought, all that fucking greed, all the, essentially, the lesser qualities of man, all the lesser qualities of man are a higher value. So this is one thing that I really wasn't planning on getting into this talk, but the idea, all the ideas of the spiritual kind of person, the Jesus figure, you know, the enlightened person, the saint, all the ideas of a saintly person, they're literally living on a better, their lives are literally better than somebody who is not doing that. And I don't just mean like that I think they're better, they're going to heaven first, or some, you know, that God loves them more. I'm literally mean, like, logically, you break it down, their fucking body is going to function better because they're just happier, they're have a clear conscience, their stress, anger, you know, somebody who's just Zen state all the time is just gonna function better. Their mental mindset is going to be better. Their physical, everything, no stress, you know, no anxiety, you know, they're going to be happy. They're literally going to be living in heaven in their life. They're going to be chilling there, happy as fuck. And the idea is that you reach that by doing the great work, by doing good stuff, by being a noble person, being honorable and stuff, by being trustworthy, you know, sticking to your word. If you fucking lie to somebody and you're not sticking to your word, you feel that deep down in your being. Now, some people have learned to numb that feeling, have learned to cut those cords to being able to feel shame and guilt and fucking, like, be affected hardcore. But I would say that they're just, like, literally snipping their wiring in their brain. Like, somebody has a much more vaster emotional maturity is going to have, like, more shit firing. Like, somebody who meditates has a much more, like, cohesive brain, you know, their brain function is way more cohesive and, you know, stable. Their heart rate is going to be stable. All their organs are going to be more stable, functional. And it's interesting, I just watched this video with this expert on the brain function. He was really breaking it down really basically. This is a super basic breakdown of the brain, and there's basically 3 parts that communicate throughout. But you know, everything's connected in a giant web, really. All the firings are going on throughout, but basically, there's these 3 levels. The reptilian brain at the very bottom, that has to do with survival, you know, instant heart rate increase for adrenaline and stuff. Like, you need food or you're being attacked. It's basically the bottom line is need food or you're being attacked. So it's like all the instinctive fucking things. And then there's the next, that's, you know, that's the lower animal, you know, lizards and stuff, the most basic shit. And then the middle one is the limbic system, I think. It's the emotions. It's your emotional thing. So it's not just about survival. It's now it's about sex and mating. Now it's about territory, and it's about you know, influence, primal influences. And for us humans, it's like our emotions, like, you know, when it comes to mating, but it also comes to interaction with people on a power struggle level, people making fun of us or whatever, all emotional things, you know, like jealousy, all the things that are influencing us in the middle brain. And then there's the higher brain, it's the cortex, and that's like logic and reason and basically breaking things down. The challenge is that the lower brain and the middle brain affect the way we think, affect the way we can see, you know, reason and think logically. So if something's scaring the shit out of us, or even if we're hungry, we're most likely going to judge things poorly or judge other people poorly or do, you know, things that we think at the time are great ideas but are really, really stupid ideas. And it's just because we're hungry, or it's just because we're feeling threatened. Same with the emotional brain, is that if you're feeling like jealous, or if you're feeling guilty, or shameful, even angry, any of those extreme emotions will really mess with our ability to make correct decisions and to make good decisions. And it's interesting because I see it all the time happening, people who I'm really close with, and it's a shame because I really I don't want to say something, but I've been exploring meditation and really harmonizing my emotions and taking. It's strange because I didn't know that I was doing this at the time, but really essentially what I'm doing is I'm taming my emotion. I'm taming those lower parts of the brain. You're taming your fear, all the negative emotions, and even being influenced too heavily by the positive emotions. If you think that somebody's really super good and you're making poor decisions because of it, you're wearing rose-colored glasses, you're hanging out with a toxic fucking person that is just leeching off your emotional psychic energy, and your money is just taking money. You're feeding into this, and it's not their fault either. But the idea is that you wouldn't fall for those type of things if you had control, if you were able to ascend those other two parts of the brain, which are helpful. You need them, but think about it logically and be like, wait a second, take a deep breath and be like, wait a second, do I really need to react in this way? Do I really need to be aggressive and let that influence my decision? Do I really need to be jealous right now and let that influence my decision? Who's at risk based on how I'm going to react, being affected by my emotions, and even just being hungry or being threatened. When it comes down to it, right? When your life's at stake and it's overpowering your cortex, your reptilian brain's overpowering your cortex, and your life's at stake, and you're like, oh shit, and you fuck up, and then you get yourself even more trouble, and you fucking lose an arm or a leg or even die. Being able to calm down and chill out, the meditative state is incredibly, I can't, imagine why it's not such a huge thing worldwide, with the amount of studies and in improving things that improve your life, the results after doing it. But anyways, I explained the one meditation, the Kabbalistic cross. So you'll note that when you do the things, touch your right shoulder first, and apparently that's not right. Apparently, according to the Catholic religion, you touch your left shoulder first. And it's interesting because the Catholic religion came about after this type of mysticism and sacred practice, which was around long before the Catholic religion was even begun. And so the understanding, my understanding, is that they fucked it over. They took it away. And I'll tell you another reason why. But they fucked it over because they claimed you're not allowed to address God face on. You're not allowed to look God in his face. You have to address God from behind. So think about that, the logic in that. The idea that God, your creator, some entity or essence or a power source that loves you unconditionally and is with you all the time and observing you and judging you, but loves you unconditionally, doesn't even want to look you in your face. Think about how fucked that sounds. Let alone the idea that God is separate from you, that you're not at the base of your very existence one with that source of life. It's fucked, and it doesn't make sense to me, scientifically, if there was this concept of a power source, of a consciousness, source of consciousness. you know, I don't really want to get into that, my concepts on that whole story, but like, just you're cutting yourself off psychologically to a purity. To even if none of that were true, even if if there's no energy source, no power source, blah 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 blah. Typically, every single time you conceptualize God, you know, you're basically conceptualizing this all-powerful thing that is good and righteous and loving. What's wrong with that? That's literally the best things we can think of in our brain. All the best things, all the most positive things that we could ever attach to or adhere to or align with is in the basic breakdown of God. Unless you've tainted it or unless somebody else has tainted it for you. Every single concept, you know, to ever exist is supposed to be the best of the best. Is really at its origin the best of the best. You know, the purest, the most loving, the most correct, you know, the most logical, you know, all powerful, everywhere, all encompassing. How could you separate yourself from that? Why not attach, you know, connect a direct mental link to the source of those concepts, so you can pull on the concepts into your own brain and think of them, even subconsciously pull from those righteous things and think of them, and then allow them to help to purify your life, allow them to help you increase the value that you place on things, increase the value of your own experience, be thankful, to be more appreciative and loving of all things. So that, I got onto a rant there, but the idea is Catholicism is largely to blame. You know, that's a whole other discussion on itself. The Antichrist Catholic Church, it's fucked. Roman Catholics, all about enslaving. You know, that was their main deal. The fucking Roman Empire, enslave everyone. They were all about that shit. It's fucked. People don't even know their history. Anyways, so that was the one ritual. You know, the Kabbalistic cross. You know, was around. Oh, I did it the wrong way. I touched this shoulder first. Anyways, the next one that they teach you in the book is the pentagram, the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. So this is another thing that's going to fuck with the Christian and Catholic societies. You draw a pentagram in each direction, you know, the 5-pointed star, the star that has been demonized by the Catholics and the Christians, and it's obvious why. They demonized it because they didn't want people to have these rituals. The interesting thing about I'm not going to get too far into it, but the shape itself, when drawn perfectly with perfect proportion, has perfectly within it the phi ratio, the ratio at which all creation is emanating, and basically, you know, is created in that form, that proportion. It's basically Fibonacci, but I'm not going to get into that. Look it up if you want to. Fibonacci sequence, you know, phi, PHI. It's some brilliant stuff. But that, you do that ritual, you face every direction, draw a pentagram in every direction, starting with the east, obviously always starting with the east. The sun rises in the east. It's a very powerful reason why you do that in that manner. You draw the pentagram, you call upon the Archangel Raphael in the first direction on the east. You charge up the pentagram with that energy of the air element of that direction. You turn, and then you keep your wand outstretched, and you turn to the south. You do each one. You cleanse each section, so to speak, and call upon the archangel of that section, or of that elemental aspect. And the idea is that you're cleansing those realms in your own psyche. You're cleansing these archetypes within our psyches. So that all has to do with, you know, magic and alchemy. It has to do with the 4 elements. Fire is passion or creativity. Air is intellect. Earth is your physical being, you know, well-being, health, wealth, you know, stuff like that. And water is your emotional being. So you're cleansing, very powerful. But it's most powerful if you understand the correspondences of the elements and the directions. If you literally understand, like, you could do it and it would be helpful. It would probably put you in a meditative state. But the idea is you're cleansing these parts of your psyche. You're addressing these things, calling upon a archetypal power image of the angels, using the pentagram, which is a very powerful proportional image. 5 elements, empowering the 5th element, which is life itself, which is like, the 5th element. Watch that movie. Bruce Willis is fucking dope shit. But it's more of a spiritual thing. All that stuff's coming from wisdoms, of the world. So you're doing those. You're calling upon. You're cleansing the elemental aspects of your being, or the psychological layers of your physical being, your mental being, your emotional being, your creative being, your passions. Cleansing those. So those are the 2 first rituals they give you in that book, The Middle Pillar by Israel Regardie. And by this time, I'm in a meditative state. And it's like, basically, you could use any type of ritual. You could basically go into it with the mindset of, I'm going to go bicycling and I'm just going to concentrate on my breath and my pedals and where I'm going. You could make that a meditative thing. You could make music a meditative thing. The idea is that people don't realize what they're trying to do when they're doing those, meditative things. You're trying to zone out. You're trying to completely drop your worries. Mostly the things that we're thinking about during the day is like, what do I got to do next? What did I do in the past? What should I do? Like, it's kind of stressful things that come up. Again, if you are interested in looking into the conceptualities of that type of stuff to help you to break down those layers of the brain, the self and the ego and stuff like that, and how the mental chatter, the monkey mind, as described by the fucking Buddhists, is that it's like, it's stressful. The fucking mind is just going off on its fucking tangents. It's like, I'm worried about this. Oh, that's gonna happen. Oh, what if this happens? Oh, you better think about this. And it's like the monkey mind is a monkey. It has no control. Fuck's sakes, I gotta take this. Yo, what's going on, man?
Chilling. Was watching some. There's this thing on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
So essentially, it's called Brave Wilderness.
Okay.
And Brave Wilderness is a guy named Coyote Peterson, who's an animal enthusiast / adventurer. And he puts himself, his body, to the test by getting stung by bitten by venomous animals, essentially insects.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and he does that, and he does it for educational purposes,
Oh, that's crazy. Well, speaking of, I gotta stop you there. Speaking of educational purposes, I'm actually in the middle of a podcast right now.
Oh, okay, you're in the middle of a podcast?
Yeah.
Okay,
so,
cool. I was wondering if it's okay to come by, because I'd be busing and I'd leave in 10 minutes. Bus comes in 25 minutes, and then I'd be there by like half an hour after that. So you probably finish your podcast by then?
I don't know, man. Just text me, but I don't think I'm down to hang out. It's already pretty late for me. I gotta work tomorrow. I'm gonna try and chill tonight. But
no problem.
But yeah, maybe next time.
Okay, bye.
Okay, yeah, talk to you later. Bye. Oh, fuck. So where was I? Talking about meditative states. Yeah, read Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now is alright. I liked his book, A New Earth, way better, personally. But The Power of Now is more in depth, specifically to your own personal experience, whereas A New Earth is kind of a more broader, worldwide experience. He's also got a bunch of other cool books. But also The Untethered Soul. I forget who wrote that book, but look up The Untethered Soul. Is very good for that type of stuff. But anyways, yeah. So the idea of the monkey mind is that it's trying to get your attention. It's like every time you address it, or you give it something to play with, like a toy, something to do, it gets happy, it gets these dopamine releases and stuff. and it's being used up. It's like a muscle that is insistent on it. It wants to be used. But it's like, that's not really who you are. It's a necessary part of your being, but you're divvied out into pieces, that a collective of organs, and that one's just like greedy for energy, your monkey mind. And we didn't have that cortex, that logical processing brain our entire life. In fact, it's one of the newest things to our evolutionary thing. And it's like, we're fucking just like thinking about shit that fucks us over. Like, we're stressing. It's unhealthy. It's not our harmonious thing. And the idea of evolution is that we needed that to keep going forward, but we have to tame it. You know, like, I don't really want to get into philosophy of the logical brain of Lucifer or whatever, but the idea is like, every single lesser quality of man, every single, like, something like a shameful person, a shitty thing, angry person, a fucking deceiver, you know, all these things. It's debatable that, and I would say it's most definitely obvious, that, like, all those negative qualities of mankind are coming from us, our unstable thought patterns, like our brain, our monkey mind, like, being like, oh yeah, like, you should do this, or oh, what about that? Oh shit, you should worry about that. And what about this? What if that person fucks you over? You better fuck them over first. Or what if this happens? You're gonna be strapped for money. You better do this. You better do that. Like, you better worry about this thing, and then probably do a crime so that you get money. You know, like, oh, or fucking, even like, oh, I want to fuck that person. You know, I want to fuck. You know, I should probably just fuck. Who cares about consent? You know, like, all that fucked up shit is coming from the lesser part of your brain. It's coming from an overactive mind. Like, we're programmed with, like, these connective, a conscience. We're programmed with quite literally a conscience in our brain. We want to connect with people on a healthy level, but if it's unhealthy and unstable, we'll try and connect with them on an unhealthy level, because we'll be searching for that purity. It's like, all the stuff's in our psychological fucking instincts, you know, where we get chemical rewards for cooperating, chemical rewards in our brain for you know, being compassionate towards each other and trusting each other and being trusted by another person and hugging each other, like the dopamine, serotonin releases and stuff like that. Like, we're programmed to just be fucking good people. We have that within our capacity, you know. Imagine comparing a Hitler type person with the Dalai Lama. Hitler was fucked, and he had a lot of, like, mental instabilities. He was on drugs a lot of the time, actually. He was on, like, meth and shit. He tried crystal meth a lot, and he was into trying all kinds of these new methods of getting high and shit. But the meditative state is one of the only pure ways to maintain bliss. Like, you can really achieve a blissful state, really extraordinarily blissful state, without any necessity for drugs or diet, you know, anything like that. And it's just reinforcing concepts, you know. It's just like the final thing taught in that middle pillar book is the middle pillar meditation, and you've got a picture, a column of energy up your spine. There's a ball above your head, and you charge that, and you're saying heavenly names of God, basically, and things like that. And repeating the energy, you're concentrating on this ball of energy, and you bring it down to another layer of your body and your being and shit like that. So the idea of the chakras, charging the chakras, but also just conceptually, you're connecting to those concepts, those heavenly concepts of purity and stuff like that. You're bringing that energy into your being. Fucking feel great after doing shit like that. It's fucking nuts how, and you, like, the more you do it, the better you get at it. It's not like you're going to be the best at it your first couple tries. Like, it's just like fucking juggling. It's just like riding a bike. It's just like fucking learning how to say a word or something simple. You know, you have to learn it. So that's a muscle, that is. You know, we can neuroplasticity or whatever, you know, do that shit. Make yourself a better person. And it's crazy because we have known this wisdom as a planet for centuries. We've known this type of stuff. And it's like there's been a huge push to get rid of the wisdom. Whether we know it or not, it's happened. Whether it was intentional or not, it's happened. The wisdom of that meditative state, that finding heaven within your own being, that finding, you know, the enlightened state and becoming empowered by it. Largely a lot of magic and mystical, paranormal, kind of miraculous experiences come alongside states like that, you know, like faith and anyways, that's a whole other talk in itself. But we are living the opposite of that. We are like, humanity is completely off course, off kilter, off the frequency of thought that is natural. If you'll look into the beta frequencies and the you know, the frequencies of thought within the brain, the states of harmonic frequency that we reach, where most of us are on a beta thought frequency. Beta is like unstable. It's all over the place, and it's kind of like, it's the thought pattern of being in the ego, and it's being like thinking, you know, stressful thoughts and all the time, and it's hard on the body. It's hard on everything, but it's the most worst part of it is that it's helping to maintain our disharmony from a natural stasis of living. It's, you know, it creates war within our society and mistrust, and creates, you know, all these deficiencies in our system, like poverty, you know, greed. It's that stasis of thought is basically the root of all of our troubles. And then there's alpha and delta frequencies, which are, you know, basically there are some native cultures that maintain beta frequencies of thought. People who do meditations a lot, like monks and stuff like that, can hop quite easily right into the beta thought frequency. And delta also, they've mapped out how to do that, how to program and basically set that thought frequency. And delta, as far as we've known so far, is like a higher frequency than alpha, and is like, our brain is tapping into this, like, these vast layers of the subconscious. But as far as we've known, only people asleep could produce delta frequencies in their brain. In REM sleep, I'm quite sure that's the one most predominantly, which is also when we're DMTing, shooting all the DMT out of our pineal gland, and, you know, doing all the psychotropic experiences of natural dream land. But anyways, delta frequencies, there's been somebody who can produce that. I think recently some monk, he is awake and he's walking around and he's doing things while maintaining a stasis of delta thought frequency, which is phenomenal. We thought you'd have to be, like, you know, out cold physically to reach those states, but he's just walking around doing his thing, and it's like, you can guarantee that person's in a stasis of bliss. He's, you know, he's all the heavenly religious things, you know, Egyptians, the kingdom of heaven is within you. That's a quote that's in the Bible, and the more accurate translations, you know, same with the Quran, suggests stuff like that if you can decipher it properly. You know, all these religions, the First Nations people alluded to that type of thing, you know, the blissful state, you know, being in with nature, in with the Holy Spirit, you know, the frequency, the Holy Spirit. If you want to, just replace the word spirit with energy frequency, and you'll start to decipher it. You know, like the Holy Spirit is within you. You know, you're in heaven. Your frequencies are aligned in a harmonious pattern, so that your body and your mind can operate optimally. It's pure and simple. That's how it fucking works. So I'm going to cut this talk to a close, because I could rant on for many centuries longer about how fucked up society is, why we're not in this state, why it's so obvious that this is the deficiency, and it's a simple acknowledgement to say, oh, well, that's a better way to do things. Oh, well, that's a better way to be and happier. Like, all these, there's no downside. It's just like, stop lying, you know? It's probably a good thing for you and everybody around you if you stopped lying. Stop, you know, being angry and hurting other people. You know, stop the fucking deceiving and painful and poison shit, you know? Just stop being a fucking prick, you know? It's interesting because, you know, it's not average ways of thinking. It's not, most people don't think of it that it's really that simple. You know, either there's a right way, there's a wrong way. Really, it's a collection of a million times over. Do a thing right, do a thing wrong, do a thing a little bit right or wrong. But it's like, there's a better way to do things and there's a worse way to do things. You know, like the more righteous, accurate thing, and fucking the more truthful, honest, nice thing to do usually is on a heavenly state of mental being, you know, is a zenful thing, you know, just being chill about it. Like, don't react negatively, because where is that going to get either of us, you know? It doesn't help. We've evolved beyond those levels of nature. We've evolved to be, you know, coherent and cooperative beings that can communicate with each other. Whether if we had language or not, we would be largely dependent on connection and communication and cooperation. But we've developed this mouth that makes things easier for us, but can also make things very hard for us if we're not able to stabilize and tame those lesser primal layers of our brain, those primal animalistic layers of ourselves, or else we're going to be, you know, influenced by emotions, fears, you know, all these things are going to affect our ability to communicate and to be like, oh, hey, bro, you know, like, I'm just trying to, you know, do this thing. And they'll be like, oh, cool, I can help you out with that. You just figure it, you know, like, way better society all around if we would just stop being pricks. I guess that's the bottom line. With that, I'm going to say, love is law, love under will. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Peace out, ladies and gentlemen. I love you all so very much. Bye.